Installing the patch box latch on the Brunswick rifle, William Hovey Smith, 2015. I'm the author of Extreme Muzzleloading, and here's an original gun that we put a patch box on. This is Hovey Smith, the backyard sportsman, and we are returning to our adventures with the Brunswick rifle. Now, I have many previous videos about the Brunswick rifles. This rifle is an original. It was bought from Atlanta Cutlery as a very much used and abused and ill-stored gun, restored somewhat to at least shooting condition, and I did manage to take a deer with it at Hard Labor Creek State Park, and all these adventures are previously recorded. Now, these guns are from the Royal Arsenal of Nepal, and they were actually made in Nepal, although after a British pattern. And some of the parts, I suspect, in the lock are actually British, but the barrels and the assembly and many other parts are not. However, they did offer a parts gun, and that is what this gun is. And it consisted, when received, of just the gun from about here forward. This part of the stock was completely gone. The trigger guard was broken. The lock was functional but pretty cruddy. The barrel the same way. But when I looked at it, the condition of the interior of the barrel made me think that maybe I could restore this gun to shooting condition by restocking it. And so that's exactly what I did. In another series of videos, I show how I restocked this gun. Now, when I restocked, I had a problem, and that is replacing this patch box. I finally did get a patch box from Atlanta Cutlery. They now offer replacement patch boxes for this gun. And one of the problems I had was finding the latch mechanism right here and how to install it. In previous videos, I have covered the inletting of the patch box into the semi-inlet stock from the rifle shopping. Now, they've got a complete list of parts for this gun, and most of them, however, they did not have the patch box itself. To fit the long spring, inlet towards the back of the stock itself, and drill a hole with a 1/16 inch drill to take the excess length of the spring. Now, you may have to trim the spring off and then glue it in. Now, to further retain that spring, I took a piece of tea olive and shaped a flat piece of wood to buttress it further down at the bottom, and ultimately glued that into the stock itself. And here is what that looks like once it was actually installed, but prior to final gluing. Now, I use shoe goo for this, which is flexible. Now, this is one of 3 types of original stocks. The whole has a latch that has a pin in it. Now, this one is actually installed from the outside behind the butt plate and is retained by a screw. Now, you can see the slot of the screw down in the very bottom of that spring. Here you see the patch box opened with some of my lubricated patches in it, as well as 3 balls, which I suspect was very commonly carried in this patch box, although one could argue that perhaps percussion caps also went there. And here is a belted ball, and this oxidized ball is one of the original 75 caliber balls recovered from the arsenal at Nepal. Now, I have inlet this after I'd already finished the stock. Ideally, I would have had access to all of this at the same time, and I would have finished the patch box and the stock at the same time. If I had done so, then these edges here would have been blended together with sanding, and all of this would have been very smooth indeed across this surface. But not wanting to completely redo the stock, I did not go to that step. I did, however, do it when I did the butt plate, as you see. So the butt plate is sanded with the wood, whereas the patch box was not. But considering the sequence in which I received the equipment, that was about the best I could do. So we now have a functional patch box on the Brunswick rifle. But now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time. Although these old guns may be restored, they were primitively made, ill-stored, hard used, and should be considered unsafe to shoot unless they are passed after inspection by a competent black powder gunsmith. Besides extreme muzzleloading, I have other muzzleloading books. These include Muzzleloaders for Hunters, Shooting and Maintaining Your Muzzleloader, Hunting with Muzzleloading Shotguns and Smoothbore Muskets, and Hunting Big and Small Game with Muzzleloading Pistols, and a new one, Building Your Own Muzzleloader. Now in these videos, I've illustrated the 3 options I know of putting the patch box latch on these guns. There may be more. For more information on my books, blogs, and more than 450 videos, go to my website, www.hoveysmith.com. Good hunting and good eating from the outdoors. Goodbye, and God bless.